Hello and welcome to a video which I thought I would do. I just attended Anna Griffin's Create at Home 2 and I went into it and decided ultimately that what I was going to do was make cards or other things, because I don't really scrapbook anymore and I really liked the dies and I liked the papers mostly. So before it even started, Lisa Uribe and I, well, actually she did, started a challenge on Instagram for the Griffinite Galaxy, hashtag Griffinite Galaxy, to use scraps from the papers and projects from Create Crop at Home too. So before it started, I did some projects and she did some projects. Well, I gave her the card that I did, and I'll show you what she brought me, and it's utilizing, this is a wine tag, and there are so many good things in this that what you can use bits and pieces for. A little strip from an edge die or a embellishment strip. She wove paper through it, and then there's little beads on here. These are the new 3D bow dies, and see how she inlaid little pieces of leftover scraps from the border die that's here into this, and it really adds interest to the bow and carries the color all the way through the project. This background, you could use just a little piece of a leftover one of the frame dies that was in the kit, or any frame die that you have, and add the contrast, which is what lends itself to being more three-dimensional. And then, you know, you don't have to have as much bulk going up. This is a wine tag, so it doesn't really matter. One of the things I was thinking about as gathering things to show you is that Father's Day is coming up, and if you have the new cart home box, to make a wine bottle hanging tag out of one of the card fronts from that would be really nice, you know, with the suit and the tie, and or for any celebration like that where you want to give somebody something. So she made me this. I gave her the first card that I made, but it was interesting because our two projects were fairly similar, except that she really took on this paper weaving. It's little thin slices of paper woven through, and even here, these are even smaller. These are a corner, 3D embossing bow. The colors of this are just incredible. This is one of the sentiments that came with the floral package that we got. But just because it's meant to be a scrapbooking sentiment doesn't mean that things can't be used on cards or cut down, like these leaves are cut down off of some of these stickers, 3D stickers. So the card I made her was slimline, but I used the same type of embellishments and colors. Black really shows off the colors that were in the floral package, and I like using black for contrast, and I think that's part of what has drawn me into some of the really richer colors that Anna has right now. So that was from Lisa. Thank you. I made us each a name tag, taking one of the frame dies on the outside, folded it in half, frame die, and then I used my Cricut and iron-on to put our names onto it, and just a little one of the same bow dies, because that was part of the challenge, was to use the bow dies. So the first day I went in not really sure yet what I was going to do, and so this first one I did use the papers that were in the kit, but I also pulled out, this is from Lillian, it's a Lillian card, and look how well those colors go together. So I just used some of the dies I already had and used the black contrast, which is, you know, really a thing in my thought process. This was one of the new stamp sets, and to make labels. I really like that. And these 3D bows are, I think, one of my newest favorite things, because they make it less bulky, but they add dimension to things. So when you look at all your things that you have, I recommend you think about how you can modify existing things. So this was my first one. The second thing that I worked on, and it took me a while, because I wanted to change things down to card size, and I combined several things with this. This is a border sticker, and mitered corners really help you to adapt things to smaller sizes so that you can still use them. Now this replicated a 12 by 12 scrapbook page to some extent, so the condensing it down into a card was a little bit easier. So there's just one of the border strips out of gold. And then if you look in the background, I cut down really tiny, this is how you use up your scraps, really tiny pieces of some of the gold foiled paper. I had really small strips. I cut squares, I believe these were 1-inch squares, and alternated them across the pattern, which I ultimately covered up a lot, but I wove these through each other so it looked like a quilt underneath. And then when I got to my embellishments, I used the new cartouche with pink to carry through the pink color. And this is the 3D bows again, but cut out of floral paper, which ties into the black background, really blends this whole thing together. So I just cut things, you know, where I wanted them on the edge. It doesn't really necessarily matter whether they match up completely, because the effect is there. So that was another one that I did. Then moving on to Paisley, one of the first ones I did, and I've already nailed this off. So I have a photo here to show you of it that I enlarged. I took one of the slimline card bases. This is out of the cart home because I had that next to me. So that's why I grabbed that, and the brown really tied into the Paisley paper. But you can do this with anything. I fussy cut one layer out, which is this back piece. I fussy cut another layer, not quite as wide, and laid that on top of it. Then I wove some copper colored paper strip in through the side to kind of carry through the design of a slimline card. So this was a little bit harder to carry the ideas forward, but it's good to show you how you can adapt it. I fussy cut out a couple of more of these little Paisley sections to put underneath my flowers. So it just, and then some of the gold flourishes that were in the package, and I have plenty of other ones that I can use. I did ultimately mail this off because I liked it so much. It's not that thick, but it's very effective with the contrast that you can get by layering up. And to give you an example, I pulled out, this is out of the Salon Nouveau paper. This one, you could fussy cut around each of these strips, or you can just go straight up and create a pattern on the side of a card, or you can do it down the center and actually split this down the middle, and you'd have a symmetrical thing. The other side, you could cut out, fussy cutter with your scissors, cut out this, because there's always some kind of a line that you can follow. It's not necessarily fun to do it, but you know, if you have the time and there's a card, special card you want to make for someone, it's totally worth it. Same thing here. You could cut this out and use that, and then you could use, you know, one or two of these, this section down the middle of the card, and that would work. This side, same thing. You could cut along here and get more use out of your paper. So that's an idea for you. Then this one I made square. Same thing with mitered corners. This is one of the borders, and even though it's not perfect, I sliced it. I really like this geometric because it tied into this background paper. That's another thing I look for, is there a pattern that I can use my embellishments to tie to the papers. And then added some gold swirls and flowers. And then I'll put a sentiment on it whenever I decide to mail it off and whatever's appropriate. The inside of this, I was thinking about what to do, and I had just gotten the tunnel dies. So I used the same flowers on the inside and cut one of the tunnels. This gold paper looks really good with the Paisley. Added some flowers and a little place where I can, you know, send a sentiment, write something to somebody. So this one was a lot of fun, and it's a little thick, but not too thick to mail. Definitely not too thick to mail. Then the other one with the Paisley paper, which is available now to everyone. This one, again, slimline. I love the purple paper. Put two sticker strips down the middle, backed up to each other so that they're symmetrical. Did a thin purple strip down the middle to cover the seam. Used one of the little dies. You could use any die behind something like this, just to give yourself a landing place for your flowers. And then I really like to tie together a slimline, but with some movement, so you've got like almost an S going through here, and it helps your eye move up and down the card. I cut one of the border dies in half So you don't, I mean, you could stick the whole border die behind there, but why not cut it in half and save some of your paper and use it for something. So that was my thought process behind that one. And then this one, this is the heirloom paper. This is one of the little sentiments that came in the kit, and yes, it works for a scrapbook page, but it's also appropriate to the front of a birthday card for someone. I layered, starting with the purple on the outside, green on the inside, stripped down the center, and covered it with one of the flourish dies, and 2 of this really narrow border die. This was one of the embellishments that was in the package, but I'm sure you have plenty in your arsenal that you can pull out and use as, again, a landing place, a place that your eye goes to. The pink almost lends itself to the purple and the pink and the pink, so you tie it all together with color. And then on the inside, I did this last, actually, after I'd already finished the inside of this, which is kind of a surprise for someone. It's a frame, which, if anyone's interested, I do have a Cricut file for doing a frame. But it's not really that hard to do after you do it once. And I took one of the frame dies, cut it twice. If you can see here, it's overlapped. So there's one here and one on this side, overlapped. The butterfly covers that, so it looks like it's a square. I just cut a square of the same paper, which ties in with the frame edge out here. And when I made the card, I put a little extra ½ inch in here to cover the depth of this. Put the pink to match the pink background here, one of the journaling tags, and I've got a birthday card ready to send to somebody. Who knows who'll get this? And just a little strip back here. If you wanted to, you could take strips of the pink and cover that, but I don't really mind the white there. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was this one, where I took a border strip, mitered corners again, and cut the layered border dies in half again to save myself paper. This paper is what I used to cut for the top layer of it, so it ties it together. Again, there's a flow through the card. That's pretty much how I handle slimline cards. Then I did, yes, take out my glue gun and made a rosette. And they're super easy to do. I do have a video showing how I put them together. This is cartouche again, and one of the stickers that comes with that kit. So I hope you'll start thinking about your papers and your dies and your strips, and look at cutting things apart, redesigning it to a shape that appeals to you or challenges you. Now, not every card you want to really be so much of a thought process. You need to get it out fast. But every once in a while, it's good to just make something special for someone special. And I hope you enjoy this. Thanks. Bye.